The first thing that you'll notice is the really velvety leaves. Another thing that's distinctive about velvet leaf is the heart-shaped large leaves. It becomes a problem because it's so prolific in its seed production. Today I wanted to share some plant ID information about a plant called velvetweed. Velvetweed is an invasive plant that occurs across the United States. It becomes a problem because it's so prolific in its seed production, and those seeds have been shown to last in the soil for up to 50 years. Let's talk about some identification. The first thing that you'll notice about velvetweed is the really velvety leaves. That's what it gets its name from. It has these large heart-shaped leaves, and if you touch them on both the top surface and the bottom surface, they're extremely soft. It's almost like touching a piece of suede or something, really, really soft. You'll also notice the veins on the leaves. These are called palmate veins, where they all originate from one spot and then they radiate out from that one spot to the very edges of the leaf. Another thing that's distinctive about velvet leaf is the heart-shaped large leaves. The leaves are really, really enormous. You probably wouldn't confuse this with something like a redbud just because these leaves are so large. And of course our redbuds are trees and not a broadleaf like this is. Velvet leaf also has pretty distinctive small yellow flowers. Here we have one. And you can see the yellow color along with the 5 distinct petals that can help to identify this. All of the plants in the mallow family, which is what velvet leaf is in, have those distinctive 5 petals and that palmate leaf venation. The last thing that you'll probably notice about this plant is what happens after it makes its fruit. Each of the little fruit have kind of a cup shape, and then there's these little prickles on the very edge of those cup shapes. This is actually a bunch of little capsules that are sitting on their side in a circle, kind of like an orange. If you try to break this open, you'll see that these are like little wedges, just like an orange. And inside there, you'll find the actual seeds. These are pretty prolific seed producers, and again, those seeds are extremely long living, and so that's why it tends to be such an issue when it does start to grow in certain areas. We have different options for control on this plant. The easiest thing to do if you just have a few would be to go ahead and dig it out. You can use a hoe or a hand shovel and just go ahead and dig the plant out. If you're going to use a herbicide, it's typically best to do that when the plant is less than 4 inches tall. It'll still have those really distinctive heart-shaped leaves at that time of year, so you can still identify it using the leaf characteristics. Lots of broadleaf herbicides that we typically use would work for controlling this plant. You could use 2,4-D or glyphosate. Some of our other chemicals like Tordon would also work for this plant. And so those would be options. If you just had a couple that were in your garden, you could just go ahead and pull those when they're small. Just hand pull them and get those out of your garden so that you don't have them spread and really take over that area. Some states have listed this plant as a noxious plant, which means there's actually laws in those states about controlling it. It is not noxious in the state of Oklahoma, but we still want to try to control it when we find it growing in our pastures just so that it doesn't spread. It is a plant that you're going to typically find in areas where you have some soil disturbance. So if you have a lot of vehicle traffic or if you're mowing a lot, it's a plant that might come up in those areas. Also, if cattle are grazing certain areas like corners of pastures or areas where there's, trees that they're getting shade under, you might find it there as well. Velvet leaf is an annual in Oklahoma. In parts of Texas, it might act as a short-lived perennial, in areas that have less harsh winters. But here, typically, it's an annual. So the name of the game is really just trying to control that seed production to keep that population from expanding further across your land.